Wireless and by the American Plains Co-op Bulk Fuel Department.
Sports Day is brought to you by Barton Community College. Explore your future and get started now. Visit gobarton.com.
Okay, Sports Day in 3, 2, 1.
Didn't lose anybody, and then we're going to add Mackenzie Premer, for a few meets, dual sporting, and she's right in there with the pack of girls, right out of the chute, so she should help us a bunch. And we should have 10 solid girls.
After year one, it's been awesome to work with the kids, like students, families, and coaches. They're just a real common sense approach to getting things done, which I love.
We had 3 goals on this trip. Number 1 was for all of our players to go and have a great time and want to come back to school. With the day and age of the transfer portal, it was very important that every young man saw that they had a role. Number 2 was that we represented K-State on and off the court in a way that we wanted them to invite us back.
Because they know something bigger could be coming down. But here's the reality of the situation, is that we're talking about 3 straight home games. Even if it was 4, it's 4 straight home games. And it's not against one Power 5 opponent.
I'm not sure that it was 100% on Hackett. I can see a scenario where Russell Wilson isn't playing well. The problem with this is they gave him a boatload of money before he even played it down for the Broncos after they traded all those picks and players for him.
With all the difficulties that have transpired this summer with Jonathan Taylor, him wanting to get a new contract, him wanting to get paid, him wanting to be traded, now they have acquiesced to his demand and say, yes, if you can find a trade partner that's going to satisfy us and satisfy the player himself, we will make that trade.
Fly ball, left center field, way back there, and it is gone! And the A's walk off the Royals 6-4.
It's over his head, it comes off the wall, it bounds away. Harper's around second, he's heading for third. Meckler bobbles on the track. Harper coming around third, he's coming to the plate. He doesn't need to slide, but he does. He's in safely, and it's 5-2 Phillies.
And welcome to Sports Day on 1590 KVGB and 95.5 FM, the talk of the town. Welcome into the Tuesday Sports Day show. Steve Webster with you, along with Aaron Clark, Mike Corson, and Mike Hesher, getting ready to talk a little sports here in the Golden Belt today. Coming up on our show, well, we're going to talk Great Bend Panther volleyball. Mike Corson goes on the prowl with Shelley Duvall of Great Bend High School. And so that's coming up on the show. We'll talk with the voice of the Kansas State Wildcats, Wyatt Thompson. And then who else is on the show today?
Mr. Cole Reif.
Oh, yeah. He said you relegated him to the third slot.
That's usually my time, but he can fit in there today.
Okay, all right. So, yeah, Cole Reif's going to be with us here on the program today. All right, let's get started here. Sounds the past 24 hours or so. Laz Lashley on the prowl section yesterday, talking about great. Don't shake your head, Hesh. They can see you around the corner. Talking about the girls cross-country team. The boys, well, you lose Caden Esfeld, and you got to rebuild. But solid girls team. Okay, let's start talking. Lashley sets the bar high, so chances of a state championship this year.
Don't like the state championship. I was starting to write a preview this morning. Only 3 seniors out of the top 22 individuals last year, and a lot of those are leaning towards the private schools. St. James, Lashley thinks will be one of the best teams in the whole state, regardless of 5A. So the good thing for Great Bend, freshmen can always make an impact in cross-country. Gets, I think, 3 of those. Premer turned into a solid 800 runner last year, so let's see how well she can do at 3.1 miles. And then he gets all the kids back from last year's 5th-place team. So it's very top-heavy with those private schools in Class 5A. It's probably the toughest classification, but top 3 definitely not out of the question.
Season opener, man, that's turned into a huge meet. Are you saying 17 schools are going to be there?
17, it's on the 31st, next Thursday already. And we don't know, I don't know what the temperature is going to be, but they've moved it to the morning to avoid some of those heat issues. But yeah, just like his track meet, the cross-country meet's getting bigger. Bishop Carroll's always solid. Liberal May's coming down. Great Bend's there. So it's not only a lot of teams, they're quality teams.
Great Bend High School Athletic Director Matt Westerhouse yesterday, starting his 2nd year with such a positive vibe going on. You've got a lot of young classes, talented classes coming up. And, when you lose an athletic director who's been around as long as Dave Meter had been, and then to come up, they hit the jackpot with Matt Westerhouse, man. He's come in, as they say, hit the ground running, and has just continued. Great transition, and the athletic department hadn't skipped a beat.
I think one of the best things you can say about the transition period is it didn't really feel like a transition period. It didn't feel like Westerhouse had any sort of
Dave
adjustment
over there in the stands too, so.
Exactly. He came in, hit the ground running, and has been rolling for the Panther athletic department.
It's out watering the flowers at 6 o'clock this morning. The football players are going to practice. So I think Jeff Lutt took a sunrise picture of the new facility. They got the rubber down in the turf. I had forgotten that last year's it was green end zones. It looks sharp. It is crisp.
Hoisington's. What's that look like, Hesh?
Very nice.
Same way? Or do they
very
get
crisp?
They have the two-tone grass, right?
Yes, they do.
Okay.
But the one thing is it Great Bend, the one I saw that had the 45 on each side was the same color, which kind of looked odd to me.
Okay.
Does that make sense? I mean, because they came together. The 50-yard line was separated. It's two same colors.
Just think they got to the 35 and they figured that out. Said, "Oh man,
herringbone never works."
And Lorna doesn't look too bad either. I was over there. Yes,
yeah, it looks really sharp. We talked about the Jamboree coming up on Friday night. It's also the 75th anniversary celebration for Great Bend Rec. They pushed that back now until 7 o'clock, and so they've got a Traeger grill raffle, pulled pork meal to support Great Bend High School athletics, practice field games for the kids, giveaways, and snow cones, or as Mike Marzoff would call them, shaved ice. So that's going to – so they pushed everything back an hour. That'll all start at 6 o'clock. Great Bend High School Jamboree at Memorial Stadium coming up.
75 years, it's hard to believe. I've coached most of those. I know given – I always appreciate what the Rec Center does. Didn't know it was 75, so cool to see them getting in on the action like that.
Well, you'll be in you're coming off a championship year. Are you returning this year to coach soccer?
Of course. Expectations are high. Pressure.
Okay. Well,
The record books will soon be etched with the name of Mike Corson all over them.
We're going to make that happen. Okay, Jerome Tang, they were over in Abu Dhabi and Israel. I only had time. He said it was all about three things. Only had time for a couple. But it's, come together and also give the coaches and their wives a nice getaway before the wives turn into widows during the upcoming basketball season. Cats open their season against USC on November 6th. Did you see the picture on GreatBendPost.com of Tyler Perry? He was going in for a big windmill dunk. He had 33 points in their second game at that tournament. Went 12 for 15 from the field, 9 of 11 from three-point range in 18 minutes of action.
Is this the guy Tang calls the best shooter in college basketball, evidently?
Well, it's probably, if you go 9 for 11, I imagine he was on that day anyway.
Interesting.
And they also announced Quaz Glover. Okay, he's from Knoxville, Tennessee. He started his career at Florida, and he played with Keontae Johnson. Then he went to Samford and played 2 years there, and he signed on while they were over on the Abu Dhabi trip. So he played for the Gators for a couple of years. Now he's going to go to Kansas State. So Jerome Tang's figured that transfer portal out pretty nice.
It's kind of nice. Coach Tang was talking about wanting to make sure the guys know they're appreciated and don't tempt them with the transfer portal, and so he took them over to Abu Dhabi.
Yeah.
And Israel, and while they're over there, they gain someone from the portal. He's working his magic.
The NCAA Live Tour it's kicking.
Yeah, I think you can probably now you don't have to take them on a nice trip. Just raise their salary from what they were making last year under NIL. It's the College Professional League. Heather Dinich, Michigan self-imposes a 3-game suspension for Jim Harbaugh amid NCAA investigation. Harbaugh will be suspended for the 2023 season after all. Yahoo Sports confirming that he will be gone for the first 3 games, but they really don't play anybody there. So I think Heather Dinich is saying, okay, here's a sacrifice we're throwing to the NCAA. Hopefully it works. I think KU tried this with Bill Self, but of course, now 8 years later, we still are waiting to resolve that situation. But so no Jim Harbaugh on the sidelines for the first 3 games for the Michigan Wolverines.
And since there's no violations nowadays, these are old violations, or was it like Northwestern and you had some non-financial type of stuff?
It alleged recruiting violations that occurred during the COVID-19 pandemic dead period.
And to me, it
didn't wear a mask.
To me, it did. It did seem
That's
like
that's 4 years. That's a death penalty. Yes,
it did seem like like Heather Dinich said, just like kind of trying to appease the NCAA. Like, hey, we'll slap ourselves on the wrist and suspend our coach for 3 games while we're playing, Minnesota Tech, North and Western Central University, whoever they have in the first 3 weeks.
Those are MAC schools, man. Those are tough, man. Okay. Gabe Neitzel, ESPN Radio host, talking about. I was going to bring this up. I mean, Broncos say must have some buyer's remorse with Russell Wilson, but
I'm still not buying it. Nobody's playing in the preseason, so new coach. I need to see what the actual waters hold for this guy with the new year. I don't care about the preseason.
I do think Sean Payton has been pretty bold in some of the things he's been saying before he's actually had a full game with Russell Wilson under his belt. Don't get me wrong. I don't think Nathaniel Hackett was doing a lights-out job last year, but to come out before preseason week 1 and say he's done maybe the worst job in NFL history.
Well, you're trying to protect your quarterback. I mean, he said
trying to protect yourself.
Well, he did say that he would address those comments at a later time. So after he sees Russell Wilson, maybe for the first 3 or 4 games, he'll say, I recant everything I said because Russell Wilson does suck.
Week 5 press conference going to be Sean Payton. I apologize to Nathaniel Hackett for any and all past and prior comments.
But it's still, Russell Wilson could come out and tear things up. So
good.
The kicker one was the ever. I don't think there was any argument he was doing a bad job, and I get sick of the coaching carousel where the whole organization says this guy stinks, we're getting rid of him, somebody else picks him up. A little bit refreshing to at least hear somebody say, "Oh, the guy was a bum."
Well, he broke violation. You don't say that. I mean, I hope, other than you guys, once you leave the studio and you go out there, man, but
it's not to the media.
I mean, the worst coaching job ever. I mean, Gunther Cunningham would come right up there for me with the Kansas City Chiefs. That's right up there on the all-time worst coaching jobs.
Anytime you throw the word ever and you open up the history books, never good. Somebody's out there researched it.
Todd Haley wasn't very good either as the Chiefs.
Correct. I mean, there's so many of them.
I was going to say the
where do you
Chiefs.
start?
Yeah.
We went through 25 years of that. Maybe
Shout
Denver's
out
in
Big
the
Andy.
Let's see. Adam Schefter. The Colts have decided to, if he can find a trade partner that's going to send him a bunch, they'll go ahead and let him his demands to get out of town and be traded.
Essentially, the Colts aren't going to be actively shopping Jonathan Taylor. Like, they're not trying to look for a trade, but they've allowed him and his agent to start contacting teams. And if they can come up with a deal that both or find a team that Taylor wants to go to and a trade that can be made, the Colts will agree to it. But they are not actively helping him shop himself at this point.
Okay. And the latest news on Chris Jones, there is a GoFundMe page out there. And it's got a picture of Chris Jones, and it says, I need $10 million to play football this year. And it was a hoax because Chris Jones went on the Twitter machine, or the X machine now, and said, that's not me. This is a hoax. It's not. Well, whoever put that on's already got $43,000.
Goodness gracious.
Let's get the keyboard up. I got an idea.
$43,000 of people that I guess threw their money around.
Because I'm baffled. It's just why it's a confusing line of thought to think that he would be on a GoFundMe.
I don't know. It's what if you lose your money. It's like that. Where they call up and said, "This is the IRS, and you're going to be arrested because you owe back taxes, and if you don't call us right now and give us your credit card information, we will have you arrested on this." And people do it. So throw it out there, man. $43,000. You don't even need to ask.
I need $13 or I'm not coming back tomorrow.
Is that your GoFundMe page?
Let's make it.
All right, I'll give you a 10 right now. I mean, Hash, you in for a buck? Aaron, $1.
I was
Okay,
gonna
we
say,
just need a dollar
got
from
my
the other
balls.
This is
listeners.
easy.
I think we can cover that. See, $13 right there. Let's see, the call last night on KAHI, that's in Oakland. Brent Rooker hits a 2-run homer in the bottom of the ninth inning to give the Athletics a 6-4 win over the Royals. Game 2 of that series is tonight, 8 o'clock start here on KVGB. And Bryce Harper with an inside-the-park home run last night as the Hustlers of Iuka opened a series against the Sabetha Squirt on the road. Huge night because Harper, he can't hit him out of the park anymore, but he can leg him out. And guess who comes back tonight off the disabled list for the Iuka Hustlers? Anybody? Mike Trout.
Did Harper have a bat that looked like a pencil, though? Did you see that bat?
No, I did not.
Was it the Phillies?
Spiffy.
It was the Phillies. They also had one look like a crayon. But I figured out why they were doing that. It was because of the they were at the Little League World Series. Yeah.
Okay, there you go. Sounds the past 24 hours or so. As we like to do, we like to throw a bone to Mike Corson. Here it is. Sha'Carri Richardson took her long fingernails off and went out and won the women's 100-meter world title last night. And you told me if you go to a meet like that and you're wagering, and you go out there, I'm gonna wager all this money on lane 9. You can probably get some pretty good odds that that's not going to be the winning lane, correct?
Correct. You had arguably the best, the Price gal. I never remember her name when it's under pressure, but 2 Jamaicans in the middle. The gal from Texas, it's one of the Caribbean islands. I think she was undefeated in the 100. So it was a stacked event, and Sha'Carri ran terrible in the prelims in semifinals with her nails on. So she got bumped out to 9. If you watched her in the qualifying races to get to Worlds, she ripped off the headpiece. So when it comes to the finals, she's all business. But now the fastest woman in the world at the moment.
So long fingernails are aerodynamically.
I got to think it's when you see her putting them down on it
Wouldn't
drives
you
me
scratch
insane.
Wouldn't you have to be further back because if one of them nails is over the?
Well, and Noah Lyles runs with almost looks like Coke can tabs around his neck. I couldn't have anything messing with my skin.
I've never understood how hurdlers can wear like necklaces because those it'll bounce up and smack down when they go over the hurdles, and just having a necklace like any sort of jewelry going on that. Like, I'm with you. I don't think I can handle it.
It's bad enough in a jog when your races and your careers are thousandths of a second. I don't want any type of interruptions.
Okay, all right. Preseason All-Americans Cooper Beebe. We had a chance to talk with him out here at the Field House at the last spring. Great dude. I mean, he's fun to talk to, and obviously leading a very good offensive lineback for Kansas State. We'll talk to Wyatt Thompson about that. Competition for the backup job. Shane Buechele. I didn't know he'd been on the practice squad for 3 years.
I didn't realize it had been 3 years. I knew he had been on the practice squad last year. I didn't realize.
Now, of course, and then you know, he's in competition right now. Who's the other guy? Blaine Gabbert. Okay. So Blaine Gabbert's a more well-known commodity, but one thing he does not have going for him is Shane Buechele, Pop, Shane Buechele was a Major League Baseball player. He is friends with Patrick Mahomes' Pop. So, you know, if you wonder who's going to get the number 2 job, maybe ask Patrick.
Blaine Gabbert was a Mizzou Tiger. Maybe he's got some love there in Missouri.
On one side of the border, he might. I don't know. Oh, and a big streak came to an end last night. The Ravens' NFL record preseason winning streak ended at 24. This was like UCLA's 88-game college basketball winning streak coming to an end last night.
I saw an excellent, just like put it in perspective for it. You know, last time the Ravens lost a preseason game, Patrick Mahomes was competing with Davis Webb for the starting quarterback position at Texas Tech. Last I knew, Davis Webb was backing up Daniel Jones in New York, but I think that wasn't even last year.
I thought he was selling speakers and
he might be now.
Deuce Vaughn, Dallas, looking good.
Okay. Coming up, we'll talk volleyball. Shelley Duvall will be in studio. Also, Wyatt Thompson coming up, and the voice of the Houston Cardinals, Cole Reif, All coming up on the Tuesday Sports Day show on KVGB.
Barton Community College is excited to announce the expansion of the welding program with an Associate of Applied Science degree and a 2-semester certificate. With our expanded offerings, you'll gain knowledge in welding techniques, safety procedures, blueprint reading, and more. Get hands-on training from Barton faculty with industry experience, ensuring you develop the skills needed to excel in your career. Now enrolling. Learn more at welding.bartoncccc.edu.
If you need physical therapy, consider Advanced Therapy in Great Bend and Progressive Therapy in Larned and Hayes.
There's nothing like A-STEM therapy. This is Tim Marcus from Progressive Physical Therapy in Hayes. Research shows that A-STEM therapy improves muscle performance and neural functioning. It's highly effective for those dealing with tennis elbow, carpal tunnel, sports injuries, and general aches and pains.
You don't need to hurt. Physical therapy can help. Call Advanced or Progressive Therapy and Sports Medicine to explore your treatment options and get your life back.
Community bankers should actually know your community. Hi, I'm Sean Powelson, president of your local Equity Bank. As someone who lives here, I know many of you and I know what's important to you. I've been in the industry a long time and I've helped many navigate through financial challenges and lead them to financial opportunities. I believe that people bank with people, so I'd like to invite you to stop by one of our region's 5 locations and meet our friendly, helpful staff. Let us show you our commitment to serving you and our communities. Because at Equity Bank, we're right here beside you. Member FDIC.
Sports Day presents On the Prowl with Mike Corson, an inside look at all the sports taking place at Great Bend High School.
Welcome back to Sports Day, 1590 KVGB 95.5 FM. Mike Corson bringing you some Bon Jovi.
Jovi.
Well, Shelley, got to watch plenty of track this summer, watch some soccer, so I have plenty of stuff to talk to the other coaches. Didn't watch any volleyball this summer. How are you?
Doing good. Ready to be back in the gym, and girls are doing great. Energy's high, and we're ready to go.
I do believe you guys have been pretty busy. What have you guys done as a volleyball team this summer?
Summer League always consists of us playing on Tuesdays through the month of June. We do a lot of team building stuff. We took a few girls to Nebraska this year. It's the first time we've ever gone to Nebraska University for a camp, and wow, that's insane. If you've ever been in the Bob Devaney facility, it's intense, but the girls did a great job, and we're back in the regular court now.
That's the University of Nebraska?
Yes.
Seeing kids from what, a regional area up there?
Most of the teams that we saw actually were from Nebraska and other states, so there wasn't any other teams from Kansas that we played. We ended up taking second out of 22 teams and lost to a team from Iowa, so it was great competition.
Let's talk about a little bit about last year. Not real senior heavy. 3 games over 500, I think it was. Mm-hmm. Feel kind of blessed to have most of that team back?
Yes, definitely. Lost 3 seniors last year with Valerie, Riley, and Kendall. But this year we have 6 seniors on the court, and then we've got Harley, our manager. She's a senior also. So most of those girls have all seen court time and have been on a varsity court. We're adding a couple underclassmen and a freshman to that and a sophomore, and we're going to be strong all the way around again.
To me, just because I don't know about volleyball, it always starts with hitting. And I saw Kaya Bear last year, and I said, Coach, what is she doing over in the JV court? And you said, oh, she's an 8th grader. How exciting to have her up at the varsity level this year.
Yeah, adding Kaya will be a great addition to our team. You know, we've got some strong seniors, and they're kind of taking her under their wing, and she's been able to kind of up our game a little bit, and her and Sadie are controlling the court as far as setting. They're both really good hitters. Sadie's an extremely good block as well, so utilizing them both this year will be a big key for us.
I think Valerie was your leader in kills and definitely blocks. Mm-hmm. Big-time jumper.
Yes.
But Cassiella, good, nice length, good jumper. What are some of the other role switches this year?
So Cassie, of course, obviously with being a state high jumper as well, you got to add Kara Feist in there as well. Kara's head's above the net just as Val's is, and she's a little bit longer. Cassie's pretty agile as well, so the two of them in the middle are going to seal a lot of our blocks for us. And then we've got some power outsides with we've got Denver Ringo, she's a sophomore, coming in. Kenzie Premer, senior. Obviously stud on the track as well, coming in and hitting for us. And then we've got Emily Hall on the outside.
I think all your back row is back. Is that yes. Minus Riley, but
yes,
basically all your leading diggers are back. How big is a defensive set like that?
Macy Noctigal is our libero, and really Macy, she came in after Sydney Unruh, and I mean that was big shoes to fill, but Macy is extremely good in the back row. We got to get her a little more vocal, kind of taking control, but you add Paige Sexton and Lauren Davis to that. Paige's energy is just contagious for everyone on the team. Lauren Davis brings us a little bit of power when it comes to serve. Her serve is, she's probably one of our best serving specialists. So that back row is pretty tight-knit.
And I think last year you talked about some of the mental aspects of the game, so it sounds like these girls, and if you watched them last year, they're plenty actually talented.
Yes.
What's the mental aspect like this year?
Last year we did a little bit of mental training. We incorporated it into our practices where we would actually meet for about 30 minutes prior to practice and focus on the mental side of the game. I read in an article somewhere where 85% of most games that you play are mental, and then the rest is physical. And as coaches, what do we do every day? We train physical. So how much do we actually train on the mental side of the game? And for girls especially, we're mental with everything. And so you got to kind of bring that together and get everybody on the same page and making sure we're on the same level. So we're incorporating that this year as well in our practices.
And I know it's early. Any really big matches you're looking forward to this year?
Oh, first night out, Garden and Liberal. Garden is always top in the WAC. They're going to be just as good this year. They've got Piper Harris on the outside, and she plays club for us here with Central Kansas Rampage. So it's kind of fun to play against her. They're extremely competitive. But I think the WAC teams just in general, Dodge City got a transfer in, Hayes got a transfer DS, so everybody's kind of building up. So it'll be interesting to see how that falls into place at the end of the season.
And you guys will be in action, Friday for the Jamboree? What's your schedule looking like?
Yes, so we're going to go at 5 o'clock. I know the football boys got moved to 7 due to the heat, but we're going to start at 5. Our C team will actually scrimmage our 8th grade. We like to bring our 8th grade up and just kind of give them a taste for what next year will look like. And then our JV and varsity will scrimmage against each other. I know a lot of teams are doing jamborees, and we thought about doing it, but we figured we'll go one more year with inter-squad scrimmage just to really get the community hyped up for our Great Bend girls before we jump up to Jamboree. But 5 o'clock, we're on our court. Come watch it.
For Jamboree, bringing it out, you have to reach out this year to start booking teams for next year?
We could have jumped into several jamborees this year, but I just kind of made that choice to keep it within house one more year, and then next year we'll look to see if we can bring some teams in. I'd rather bring them in than go somewhere for a jamboree.
Definitely easier for local media.
Well, and we only have 2 home games for seniors this year, so that's a little rough.
Shelly, good to hear from you. We're looking forward to covering you this year.
Thank you so much.
More Sports Day after this.
Get the power you need for your farm equipment. The power of peace of mind that dependable Cenex lubricants deliver. With decades of proven off-road performance, backed by the industry-leading Cenex Total Protection Plan warranty. Cenex heavy-duty diesel engine oils, hydraulic fluids, gear lubricants, and greases are formulated to provide superior protection for load-bearing equipment. The power you need to keep your business running like a well-oiled machine.
Contact American Plains Co-op Fuel Department in Great Bend, your certified Cenex distributor today.
Marmy Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram has the largest inventory of new Rams and Jeeps in central and western Kansas. Make this the summer event and come into Marmy's today and get a $10,000 rebate on a new 1500 Ram Laramie truck and save $7,000 on a new Grand Cherokee Limited demo. Lease a new Wrangler Hybrid demo and get a total of $13,000 off MSRP. Marmy's needs used vehicles and will give fair trade and allowance or just buy your old vehicle for cash. Visit marmys.net. Marmy's, make it happen.
If you're drowning in IRS debt and can't afford to pay, then you need to take advantage of special IRS tax programs that are available and free yourself from IRS collection efforts once and for all. Due to the financial hardship consumers are facing throughout the country, the Internal Revenue Service has made it easier to settle delinquent tax problems. An open phone line has been established by Community Tax for consumers to call and see if they qualify. Take down this number or store it in your cell phone, but call the Community Tax Helpline at 800-587-5063. If you owe back taxes to the IRS and cannot afford to pay them back, or even if you have years of unfiled tax returns, there's no need to fear anymore. But you have to call the Community Tax Helpline today at 800-587-5063 for the help that you need. Don't take on the IRS alone. They can attack your wages, savings, pension, home, and even your Social Security check. Call 800-587-5063 for your free consultation and to see if you qualify. That's 800-587-5063.
Going strong since 2011, it's Sports Day on 1590 KVGB and 95.5 FM. Brought to you by Barton Community College and the Cougar Athletic Department.
Sports Day on KVGB, we bring you the latest breaking news, and Wyatt Thompson has just stepped out of the press conference for Chris Kleiman. That's breaking stuff, Wyatt.
How are you, buddy?
I'm all right. So, yep.
Great to talk to you.
Yeah, we're getting back into the routine of things as we get closer, man. So another season's coming up for the Wildcats. Wyatt Thompson joining us here today. I guess you could say easily high expectations are the name of the game in Manhattan for Wildcat football this year.
No doubt. And you mentioned the press conference. I literally just walked out of there probably a minute ago. And as excited as we are to get it going, I don't know. I'm probably accurate in saying I think I'm more excited now after listening to Coach Kleiman for the last 30 minutes because he has said some of the things to the media that I feel like I've seen in practice over the last 21 practices or so that, it's been a good camp. And, the expectations are high, but I think they've also, one thing that's happened is with 15 starters back, you're going to have good leadership. You can see that in the captains and the more veteran guys. But I think they're really, really pumped up about a lot of the young guys. And he was asked a lot about, some of those kids and maybe a freshman or two that may play, early in the season. And he mentioned as an example, Asa Newsom, a linebacker from Waverly, Iowa. So it's been good. And it's kind of funny. You just, with the excitement level of where it's at, based on last year's championship and going to your first ever New Year's Six bowl game, you knew no matter what that people were going to be pumped up for this year. But it's even more so, Webby, for me than I thought it might be with the fan base. They're really excited, and they should be.
Let's go back to the COVID years, and that's where the depth that you want to get, where you can do this year in and year out, gets into place. I would imagine that depth is much better than it was back in 2020.
No doubt. And I think you can look at almost all spots on the roster and see that. I think about the quarterback position as an example. Everybody knows about Will Howard. Not as many know about a guy like, let's say, Adrian Lara or Jake Rubley. Yeah, they're going to know who Avery Johnson is. I get that. But then you look at the fact that this team has its top 8 offensive line guys back. You lose a Deuce Vaughn, but it's a pretty good feeling when you have DJ Giddens in there and a terrific transfer from Florida State and Trayshawn Ward. So that's just one area or a couple of 2 or 3 areas there where you see the depth. I would probably add linebacker onto that because we know what Daniel Green is. We know what Austin Moore is. But Coach while ago just raved about Des Purnell, the kid from Topeka Hayden, and how much better he has gotten after a position change where he early in his career was, trying to play in the secondary, and now he's the Sam linebacker. So, you and I could spend probably a lot more time than you have, Webby, talking about all those guys and how the positions are deeper.
This isn't a new message for Chris Kleiman. He did this at North Dakota State to tell him, okay, last year he wasn't talking about winning conference title. He was, okay, we won a national title last year. This is a new year. They'd go out and do it again.
Well, I think the bar has been raised after last year, but that's a good thing.
Yep.
And some of the things that he will say from time to time, like all coaches, I suppose, but it will catch your attention. He said something a little while ago in his press conference that, and I'm paraphrasing here as opposed to, quoting the man directly, but he was talking about his staff. And, that staff has had very little change even back to his first day as the head coach of the Wildcats. And I happen to believe that, that's a big part of why K-State has become, even through, almost 2 full seasons of COVID issues, why they've become more consistent and have added more depth. It makes sense that you're going to recruit better the longer you're around. If you're having success, that has also happened. And I'm prejudiced as it gets when it comes to Kansas State, but I'm just going to tell you, in looking at these young players, from number 1 to number 99 on the roster, the job that Tremaine Carroll does as our strength and conditioning head man is is really terrific, and that makes a difference too. Those coaches will tell you that there are a lot of good football players made in the summertime, and those position coaches aren't coaching them nearly as much as a guy like Drew Carroll.
Okay, Deuce Vaughn is gone. You mentioned Trayshawn Ward, a kid who kind of lost some carries last year. He was playing behind another really good running back. Tell me about Trayshawn Ward and what the expectations are, because, okay, I'm sorry, I'm not going to buy that saying, well, I think he can come in and be a bit better than Deuce Vaughn, but you want to pick that up. What kind of player are we going to see?
Great question, because let's just cut to the chase on this one. Replacing Deuce Vaughn is a lot like trying to replace Darren Sproles, right? Mm-hmm. You're familiar with that guy and that time frame in K-State football history. I don't think you do that with the same explosion of big playmaking that Deuce brought to the table. But with that said, and I think both of the guys that are going to get a bulk of the work this time, DJ Giddens was terrific last year in backing up Deuce and had over 500 yards. And you asked specifically about Trayshawn. When you're at Florida State and in a Power 5 league and you average 6.6 yards per carry, that's going to catch your attention more times than not. He was here in the spring, which really helped. He wasn't totally healthy. And maybe that was, I never want anybody to be injured, but I do think in an odd kind of way, it helped him because he could stand off to the side and some of the things he couldn't do and watch and learn that way. And I've had an opportunity to talk to him a couple of 2 or 3 different times. Webby, he's really, really bright. He works really hard. I love this. You're a big baseball guy like I am. I love players that work on their weaknesses, not their strengths. And I think Trayshawn is kind of one of those guys.
Okay.
I don't think you get better unless you do it like that too, frankly.
Okay, that offensive line, almost everybody's back. Cooper Beebe was out here for the event that we had at the Fieldhouse in Great Bend last spring, and he was just like a guy, cut his sleeves off, give him a DeKalb hat, and he could be the guy that's unloading your weed at the elevator, he's a K-Stater through and through, man. What a great guy to have on your line and leadership, and plus he's pretty good.
Oh, preseason All-American good. And I think a lot of people at the next level believe he's the best offensive guard in college football. He's a unique talent because he has the ability to play really all 5 positions. And I mean that sincerely. He has the ability to do that. He also has the ability to lead. And because of, his knowledge and his length of service here, I was thrilled when he announced, like those other guys did, that he was coming back, because we legitimately could have lost him to the draft, both our tackles who came back for a 6th year and our starting center, Hayden Gillum from Plainville, who came back for a 6th season. So, there's a reason I think K-State is picked where they're at. A lot of people really understand the kind of offensive line coaching they get from Connor Riley and the people that are back. And I mentioned a moment ago, the top 8 guys are back, and that is a significant deal, because Kristen Duffy probably will not play in the opener, and somebody's got to step up there. And I think they have 3 or 4 scenarios where they could go. I think it will be Carver Willis who will start at right tackle, that they could move Beebe out there. They have Andrew Langgang. They have John Pastore. I mean, that's when you start to feel really good about the depth and stuff we've been kind of portraying here, because of there's more than one option, and that's a great thing.
Okay, the Felix Anaduke Uzama. So, okay, you get a lot of guys back on defense, but he's kind of a critical piece. But who's going to slide into that spot?
Well, it's a good question, too, because his explosion, much like what we talked about with Deuce, is hard to replicate. But here's a couple of thoughts for you. One of the real big breakout guys from last year that people may remember but may not is Brendan Mott. And Brendan is a really, really good player. in addition to that, Nate Matlack, who's been around here for a while, and when he has been healthy, and there's been times when he hasn't been, but when he is, I think he really can help K-State a lot. So you have those two guys. Then I think you have to throw in Khalid Duke there. Because of his abilities and because they had Felix and some of those other guys last year, they tried to move him back a little bit and play him in different scenarios, but more of like a hybrid linebacker situation. He's going to be more of that defensive end guy again, where he was really good before he tore his knee up a couple of years ago. And I just think if he has the same kind of explosion that he had back then, and I think that is certainly something that could be on the table. Now you've got three really good ones. Even losing Felix, you have a freshman in Chidi Obiizor from Minnesota who they love, and I think he'll get some time. You have Cody Stufflebean, who's been in the program a little while now from McPherson. So, losing Felix is quite difficult, but I don't think the cupboard is bare there. I'm just going to tell you, it's not bare. I think they're going to be okay there.
Okay, and then there's that quarterback named Will Howard getting all kinds of hype, and yet it's the first season he's gone into as the number one guy.
Yeah,
it's going to be taking center on the taking snap on the opening day of the season. How can he be better this year?
Well, I think he is already better. Going back to the press conference, Coach talked about his leadership and all of the things that he has done over the course of time to make himself even better than he was a year ago. And let's put that into perspective too, Webby, because think about it like this. In the back half of the conference season, you could make a pretty strong argument that Will was playing as well as any quarterback in the league. And here's where I remind you that one of the quarterbacks in our league last year was a Heisman finalist and took his team to the national championship game in Max Duggan at TCU. So that's a mouthful when you say that Will was as good as anybody. His arm talent is better. His footwork is better. Leadership skills are better. His confidence is better. And I, even though you lose a guy like Deuce and you lose a guy like Malik Knowles, I think it would be fair to say that Will is totally comfortable with the people around him who can be playmakers when you think about those two running backs and the receivers. And we haven't even talked about Ben Sinnott yet, and he's one of the best tight ends in the Big 12. Yeah. So that's a good thing, too.
All right, Wyatt, I know the players will be coming in for that press conference here in just a minute. So I'll ask this long-winded so you can kind of collect your thoughts here. It's one of those ones that, okay, we're going to draw on the deep in the dark, in the bowels of Wyatt Thompson's brain right now. Okay, what you've seen and everything. Give me a player or two that no one's really talking about right now, but probably will be as the season goes along for K-State.
Wow, I love the question, and I mean this truly. There are several guys that I could put in this kind of category. I mentioned Chidi Obiizor a moment ago. He's from Eden Prairie, Minnesota. He walks in the door. Let me say it this way. Felix Anudike-Uzomah came in here, at 215 pounds. He walks in at about 245. So that's a pretty significant difference, right, for a freshman. He's explosive. He's tough. He understands what he's doing really already. He would be a guy. A linebacker by the name of Asa Newsom, number 23, from Waverly, Iowa. We've seen some Iowa kids, Brendan Mott and guys like that, Ben Sinnott, have success here because Kleiman is from that area. He's going to continue to recruit there. So there's those couple of guys. The one guy I think that people know a little bit about that I'm hoping becomes, a household name is R.J. Garcia. He made the big catch in the Big 12 championship game against TCU, but he's a much better player now than he was a year ago. And if he is what I think he can be when you put him with Ben Sinnott and Keegan Johnson, the transfer from Iowa, and Phillip Brooks, who's back in the slot, now all of a sudden you've got, a pretty good little stable of receivers there. That's one area I think where you could say, though, we need R.J. Garcia to be a guy, and probably those 4th, 5th, and 6th receivers to be, pretty pretty consistent. I think one of those guys, even though he's undersized and undervalued, but Seth Porter is one of those, but we need a couple of other guys to step forward. And I think there are guys there, but you got to do it.
Well, I appreciate the time you spend talking to us, to all the Cat fans and all the Big 12 fans here in Central Kansas. We'll get you back to your press conference, and we'll talk to you soon, okay?
You're the best, buddy.
Okay,
Always
thanks.
enjoy talking to you. Thanks,
All right.
buddy.
Wyatt Thompson, voice of the Kansas State Wildcats here on Sports Day. It's all brought to you by Equity Bank, here when you need us. Bank local, save big with in-person banking and business banking. Visit equitybank.com for more information. Equity Bank in Great Bend, Hoisington, and Larned, and by Next Tech Wireless. Experience wireless built by Kansans for Kansas. Okay, talk about a team's got some expectations. Cole Rife's going to talk about them, the Hoiston Cardinals. That's next here on Sports Day.
From the Mayo Money Management Studios, 1590 KVGB, Great Bend, and 95.5 FM K238CK, Hoisington.
When it comes to car maintenance, it's good to know a local guy that can get things done. The Eller family has been in the auto repair business in Great Bend forever. Greg Eller continues that long tradition of helping people. Eller Automotive Repair specializes in wheel alignments, oil changes, and general maintenance for all makes and models of cars and small trucks. Open 8 to 5 Monday through Thursday, 8 to 4 Fridays. Eller Automotive Repair at 915 Morton, right behind Great Bend Appliance, Furniture, and Sleep Source, 10th and Morton.
At Next Tech Wireless, it's wireless on your terms. You pick a 36, 24, or 18-month agreement and get a device on us like the iPhone 14 or the new Google Pixel 7. Stuck in a contract with your current provider? Switch now and get up to $1,000 per line. For more details, stop by your nearest Next Tech Wireless location today or call or text our customer care team at 877-621-2600. Next Tech Wireless, home on the range.
Community bankers should actually know your community. Hi, I'm Amy Herrera, Regional Retail Manager for your local Equity Bank. As someone who lives here, I know many of you and I know what's important to you. I've been in the industry a long time and I've helped many people navigate through financial challenges and lead them to financial opportunities. I believe that people bank with people. I'd like to invite you to stop by one of our region's 5 locations and meet our friendly, helpful staff. Let us show you how we're committed to serving you in our communities. At Equity Bank, we're right here beside you. Member FDIC.
He's the voice of Hoisington High School football, the Barton County Cougars, and the king of the tweeter machine. It's Cole Rife on Sports Day on 1590 KVGB and 95.5 FM.
I guess we're going to get you a new one because I don't think you can call it a tweeter machine
You can't
anymore.
call it a tweeter machine. The X
What is it?
machine.
The X machine.
Yeah, just the X machine. Just the X.
Cole Rife back in studio today. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
We haven't seen you all summer.
What was the advertising and the promotion thought process of changing Twitter to X? Like, what was Elon just like, you know what? X. Like, does anyone know this? I'm sure there's an explanation somewhere.
I just got on the X machine.
You're on the X machine now.
But I haven't got going yet.
Okay.
But you know.
You're just revving up right now.
Right. It's just, I kind of drop in and things like that. So,
Cool.
Okay, we talked to Wyatt Thompson. Expectations are high. Okay, Connor Nichols going to be our Friday guy this year.
Nice.
Connor's got a new thing going, and he's going to be on Friday, and he's all excited because they're dropping the 2A preview on, what is that, Sunflower Sports
Solutions? Yeah.
Sunflower Sports
Cool
Solutions.
website.
Yeah, on Thursday. But he said he had a conversation with Zach Baird this week. So I'm giving you a free tidbit here. Hopefully Connor doesn't mind. But he said that Zach Baird will have the most dynamic quarterback at Hoisington that he's ever had. That's a pretty strong statement, isn't it?
Dynamic. I think dynamic's the first one. Tony Moore has that chance to be special. That's for sure. But when you put dynamic in front of it, I think that's where it gets a little easier to put that label on him. Like, there have been some great quarterbacks, and there haven't been that many. We talked about, and he's usually had 3 or 4 year starters. Like, he's either started in their freshman year with Mason Haxton, had him for 4 years, outside of, rupturing a spleen. And then he had, Tyler Speck for 3 years. We had a year of Wyatt Wickham. And, now Tony Moore is going into his second year, so this will still be kind of unfamiliar territory, only a 2-year starter at quarterback. So, exciting his ability to, to completely do the RPOs and have that option of, reading and whether or not he's going to hand it off or to keep it himself. You're going to have that. I think you saw that at the end of Mason Haxton's career, his senior year, and at the end of his junior year, you start to see him emerge a little bit more. But then now that RPO becomes even more dangerous when you have a guy like Tony Moore and the experience behind him. When you got Mason Alderdice that can take it to the house on any handoff. Ian Smith seems like he's going to stay in the backfield. I know when we were talking like March or April, there's maybe some talks and maybe some light conversations of Ian Smith possibly going to the offensive line just because they were a little bit weaker in that area compared to the backfield. But I think he's going to stay. He's still got the number 8 jersey, so he should be staying in the backfield. And I think you're going to see him kind of line up more maybe at wingback and then give Taryn Kraft some breathers from time to time. But, yeah, it's exciting. I mean, you got a guy like Tony when it starts there and you got the ball in his hands every snap. That's pretty good.
They've got some guys that can bust it to the house at any time on any play. They've got some really breakaway speed type athletes this year.
Yeah, I mean, that starts with Mason Alderdice for sure. I mean, I think Jason Robinson, because we saw him. He had a hip injury toward the end of the season, so he didn't play in the last couple of playoff games, so he'll be healthy now, a junior. I mean, Taryn Kraft, to me, has deceiving speed. I mean, he's not going to be a guy that's going to compare by any means to an Alderdice or a Jason Robinson, but Kraft's not bad either. I mean, he's got decent speed, and he's got the strength to back it up. And then Tony Moore is going to be right there, too. He's not a slow guy either.
Okay, is there any concern you have about this team?
There's still a concern of, okay, these guys, most of them had some experience, but they didn't have to be the guy. They didn't have to be truly the guy. I mean, you saw that at the end of the season. We talked about Taryn Kraft. He came on with a really nice sophomore year. Tony Moore was still kind of figuring out the ropes through, the first 4 or 5 weeks, I think, of the season. Then he kind of came on. But you still had that senior leadership, even though they weren't maybe the most important guys on the field at every down. But a guy like Leighton Haxton, a guy like Chase Steinert really stands out to me. And then obviously on the line with Cole Gilland and Logan Filburn, those are 3-year players, even really can say 4-year players. So now it's a new group of guys like it is every year, but now they have to prove themselves. And I think on the offensive line, too, obviously a lot of hype, and rightfully so, for Caden Hoffman coming back on the offensive line. But guys like Caleb Berzer, Braden Stevenson, they are off and on starters last year on the O-line. Now they're everyday guys. You're going to fill in a Leighton Hoffman as well. So now you got guys that are, okay, hey, yeah, we were in there, X amount of snaps. Now you're in there every snap. So those are the guys that you're kind of looking at, okay, hey, what can you do? And, every year you always see the evolution of, getting those younger guys involved. And, Mason Martin, he played really well defensively at the end of the year. He's back. He's a sophomore. A guy like Brady Rife might have a chance to get a lot more snaps this year. So some of those younger guys, Ren Gala, are going to have to come on and put up some big roles.
And we just wait for it to run out. There's not going to be anybody coming up anymore. But every year you think, well, they can't be as good as they were last year. But then here they go. And they're probably going to be ranked number 1, aren't they?
No, I mean, I don't think so. I mean, I think this is
where are you going to have them in your K-Preps poll?
I put them right around number 5. Because, I mean, you look at, Kingman returns a ton. I mean, they lost Nolan Friend?
Yeah, the best player.
Yeah, good player, but great player. But they return a decent chunk. So they're going to probably come in as the 2A West favorites. Obviously, there's a lot of talk, and rightfully so, with Ellsworth. They return essentially everybody from last year, including some really standout athletes. So they're going to be in there, but they're obviously still in the same district as Southeast Saline. And, Southeast Saline, you obviously look at the Gebhardts, but, Nate Friesen's a really good running back. He comes back. Caleb Kerr was a really good defensive player.
So Southeast isn't really just taking a giant step back.
I mean, they're going to take a step back, but I still think they're going to contend for sure in 2A West. And that'll be a fun matchup toward the end of the season with Ellsworth and Southeast to determine that district champion. So they're going to be in there. Beloit, they lost a good chunk of their players from last year, so they're probably going to take a step back. We talked about Russell. It's hard to imagine Russell being as good. I think the coaching staff is there to make them consistent, but it's hard to believe that they're going to be as good as they were last year. I mean, I've heard talks that TMP has a good chunk coming back. They can improve a little bit, but Hoisington will be in that top 5 conversation. But then you got on the east side, Nemaha Central defending state champs. Good section back for them. Silver Lake has their guy back. So there's Sabetha should be pretty
2A
solid
loaded,
again.
just
so
as always. It'll be weird.
It'll be fun.
Not hearing Dr. Blake.
It will be.
On the mics this year.
Yeah, new era, and it's just kind of a tough going into that. I mean, that's a tough situation last spring, and it's now kind of getting those emotions back out. So, yeah, he was the voice for sure.
Do we have the...
No, it's just still. We're just still.
Okay.
It'll be.
I wanted some breaking.
Day. We're not going to break any new news here.
Okay.
No new news.
Cole, thanks a bunch.
You bet.
And again, it's a world that the world revolves around Mike Corson, so we'll try to keep him regular. Okay.
Grape in volleyball is important. So
okay, gotcha. Fine. Okay, Cole Reif here on Sports Day. All brought to you by Advanced Therapy and Sports Medicine. Get your life back. And by the Marmy Auto Group on 10th Street in Great Bend, along with Eller Automotive Repair, local mechanic that can help behind Great Bend Appliance and Furniture and Sleep Source here in Great Bend. We'll be back. More Sports Day after this.
Venture Corporation is a homegrown company with almost 50 years of experience in asphalt, paving, and construction, and they need equipment operators, mechanics, and CDL drivers. Venture offers many benefits, including 401k and Blue Cross Blue Shield health insurance. Call Leslie for all the details. Work for a family-owned and family-oriented company that is here today and will be here in the future. Venture Corporation, South Highway 281, Great Bend, is an equal opportunity employer.
Take your passion for dance to the next level with the new dance instruction program at Barton Community College. Whether you're a seasoned dancer or just starting out, Barton's experienced faculty will prepare you for a rewarding career. Gain skills in studio management, marketing, and finance, along with dance techniques and fundamentals. Now enrolling for the fall semester. Learn more at teachdance.bartonccc.edu.
Sports Day is presented by Barton Community College and the Cougar Athletic Department. Sports Day on 1590 KVGB and 95.5 FM.
All right, Sports Day coming up tomorrow. I got to think about tomorrow now. John Betts is going to be in with us, and Kansas Pregame Magazine is out. It's in Great Bend. I was going to jump on Mike Horse because he didn't want to ask for more than 2 magazines when he went to Pizza Hut to get one of those. So Aaron Clark went out and got the new edition. So John Betts is going to be talking about that. If you want the new copy of Kansas Pregame Magazine, here in Great Bend, you can go to Pizza Hut, both locations, Advanced Therapy and Sports Medicine, the Field House, and by Next Tech.
The Field House, the purveyors of Kansas Pregame for KVGB.
Okay, so that's where you can get those. Okay, jamborees coming up in the area. Larned hosting one on Friday night as well. We'll get a chance to see Ellsworth. They'll be participating in that event. Plainville will be there as well. So that'll be out on the brand new turf over at Earl Roberts Field. That'll be fun. And then here in Great Bend, let's see, Scott City, Russell, and Hoisington.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So the Jamboree's going to they pushed it back an hour. I think most everybody's done that. It'll be the same thing. The Jamboree in Larned is starting at 7. But it's a 75th anniversary celebration for the Great Bend Rec. So there's going to be some neat things going on. Practice field games for the kids, giveaways, snow cones, a Traeger grill raffle, and a pulled pork meal to support Great Bend High School athletics. We're going to be talking with Nicole Grove, with the president of the Great Bend Panther Booster Club, in on the show on Thursday. But a great way to get out there. You can watch some volleyball as well, getting underway. So it's going to be a good night to meet the Panther athletes.
I'm excited. I'm excited to see the football team get some action against not each other.
well, we're tired of practicing and hitting those other guys. It's always fun when Hoisting comes over here and see a match up against the Panthers.
Just put a little fuel on the fire for the trash talk between towns for the rest of the year, you know?
Aaron, thanks for being on. That's going to do it, our show today. Welcome back tomorrow for the Wednesday Sports Day show on KVGB.